The day the White family went bankrupt, everyone thought I would call off my engagement with White Ice. I defied my father's objections, generously spent $100 million to help her rebuild her career, gave her this $100 million. If she succeeded, she would come back and marry me. If she failed, I would go and marry her. 5 years later, White Ice returned with 3 companies listed on the stock exchange. In front of all the media, she declared she had canceled her engagement with Squareway 5 years ago. In those 5 years, there was another person always by her side, giving her a shoulder to lean on when she was tired, comforting her when she was sad, and applauding her when she succeeded. They shared hardships together. They went through difficulties together. They loved each other passionately. The man who had once generously spent $100 million to help her family rebuild their business had now become a laughingstock. Here is $300 million. Consider it repayment for the kindness of the past. White Ice, after achieving success, shed the naivety of her youth, became more mature and alluring, carrying the demeanor of a powerful woman. Back then, I was captivated by her appearance. Ignoring my father's advice, I generously gave her money to help her once again. Just one more glance at her, and I still felt a surge of desire to possess the woman before me. I picked up the card and handed it to the secretary behind me. Without a trace of emotion, I looked at her, coldly saying while gesturing to check it, "Not a single cent can be missing." White Ice saw the secretary take the card, breathing a sigh of relief as if a burden had been lifted. I observed her subtle expressions, smirking with composure. Did she think this meant she no longer owed me anything? Hearing this, White Ice straightened her back. With a solemn expression, she said, "If Mr. Square has any needs in the future, just come to me. White Ice will surely fulfill any request." Right after, she added one more sentence. "Except for marriage." She spoke very seriously, as if she were a person who valued loyalty and righteousness. But I wasn't moved at all. The watch she bought at the auction yesterday, I liked it too. Send it to me tomorrow morning. The watch that White Ice spent thousands of ounces of gold to buy. There's only one in the world, unique and unparalleled. It said she bought it to give to her fiancé first scholar Chin. If this watch appeared on my wrist, I wonder how some people would react. Seeing White Ice hesitate, I stood up and went upstairs, saying without looking back, "If President White breaks her promise, then consider my words a jest." The next day, the secretary placed the watch on my desk. I picked it up and examined it for a while. Exquisitely crafted, clearly of immense value. At tonight's gala, my custom-made suit paired perfectly with this watch. White Ice and her fiancé, first scholar Chin, attended. Meanwhile, I had no one by my side. The whispers around me grew louder. They were, of course, talking about why the gift White Ice gave her fiancé was now on my wrist. White Ice's fiancé was smiling brightly as he approached me. "President Square, White Ice has already explained to me. This watch is to repay your kindness." I raised my glass and clinked it against his, then turned and walked away, ignoring him. These insignificant people weren't worth my energy. He still didn't give up, continuing to provoke with a scornful tone. President Square, aside from having money, probably doesn't know how to love anyone. Otherwise, White Ice wouldn't have chosen me. I looked at the half-empty glass of wine, feeling unsatisfied. So I grabbed a cake from the table and threw it straight at his smug face. A startled scream drew everyone's attention. White Ice immediately rushed over, taking a tissue from her bag to wipe the cream off first scholar Kin's face. While doing so, she questioned me in an unpleasant tone. "What is President Square doing? Why are you making things difficult for my fiancé?" I tossed the piece of cake in my hand, disdainfully wiping my hands, calmly saying, "He ruined my appetite." First scholar Chin put on a victimized expression. Truly a hypocritical green tea type. "I only came to tell President Square, I don't mind that you took my watch, as long as you vent your anger. I'll do whatever you want." After saying that, my sworn enemy Cloud Life crossed his arms, speaking up with indignation. "Squareway is bullying people again, relying on his family's wealth, going around stealing others' things." Others joined in, condemning me as an arrogant, overbearing fool. A spoiled rich kid who looks down on everyone. I still smirked, maintaining a proper smile, staring into White Ice's dark, unreadable eyes. After a while, she said, "Let's go." White Ice took First Scholar Kin's hand and left. Looking at their retreating figures, I only felt an intense irritation. We had been engaged since we were 18. White Ice back then was pure and lovely. Her fair face would blush at a teasing remark from me, showing the shyness of a young girl. I loved teasing her, the kind of affection a man has for a woman. On the day the White family went bankrupt, she seemed to mature overnight. Her gaze became more resolute. Her entire being radiated unyielding determination. I knew she would surely succeed, but I forgot that after succeeding, she might not remember our engagement. Do I regret it? I never do things that make me regret. I could lift her up, and I could also make her fall back into the mud. After that, wherever White Ice appeared, I was there. Whatever land she wanted to buy, I would buy it at double the price. Whatever project she bid for, I would snatch it at half the price. When it comes to money, White Ice was far behind. When I Square Way was dominating Fortune City, White Ice was struggling in a small place with that 100 million. In the end, White Ice couldn't hold on. She came to my house alone to apologize, standing before me, holding back the hot tears in her eyes, stubbornly looking at me. What benefit does President Square gain from doing this? No matter how rich the Square family is, they can't withstand this. I could tell. She was teaching me how to be a better person. I looked behind her, calmly retracting my gaze. Where's your fiancé? Didn't he come to apologize to me? Her alluring red lips pressed into a straight line. She slightly bowed her head, her attitude sincere. For what happened that day, I apologize on his behalf. Then her tone suddenly changed. But President Square was the one who struck first. Both sides bear responsibility. Forget it. I smirked, saying with deep regret, I admit I was too gentle with my strike. You'd better tell him to stay far away. Next time it won't just be a simple cream cake. Seeing I wouldn't yield, White Ice stopped compromising. With a darkened face, she said, "If President Square still won't let my fiancé go, then we have nothing more to talk about. We'll meet on the business battlefield from now on." I leaned back on the sofa, crossing my legs, arrogantly replying, "Fine, let's do it. No meeting, no end." After leaving my place, White Ice began contacting industry tycoons to discuss cooperation. But in Fortune City, as long as I said one word, no one would dare work with her. Moreover, when the White family went bankrupt years ago, besides me, there were plenty of others who didn't want her to rise again. But I didn't expect First Scholar Chin to be an internet celebrity with tens of millions of followers. He posted a video online condemning my monopoly in the industry, deliberately targeting White Ice, and tearfully recounting their struggles while starting their business, creating a sympathetic image, winning the public's empathy. When my secretary showed me the video, I laughed dismissively, immediately grabbed my phone and called White Ice. "The video your fiancé just posted. Delete it within 2 minutes." On the phone, White Ice said, "Everything First Scholar Chin said is true." "True," I spoke in an icy tone. "Are you sure you don't even want the last shred of dignity?" White Ice fell silent for a moment. "It'll make him delete it." The fact that I gave White Ice 100 million, only a few in the circle knew. If this got out, she would be the one humiliated. She's a businesswoman too. After weighing the pros and cons, her fiancé meant nothing. Willow Smoke and I grew up together. On the night White Ice and I got engaged, he said he cried all night. On the day the White family went bankrupt, he spent tens of millions to light fireworks all night in Fortune City. He said he didn't do it for me. He simply didn't like White Ice. So we've been close since childhood, but we never got along. Tonight he invited me to a bar to relax and thoughtfully arranged 8 girls for me, every type imaginable. After a few glasses of wine, I fully revealed my true self. My left arm around a seductive woman, my right arm around an innocent college girl, completely at ease. The door was opened by a staff member. In my drunken haze, I seemed to see White Ice's angry face. It was really her. Who called her here to ruin the mood? I asked irritably. Willow Smoke diligently helped me fix the open collar of my shirt. With a smug tone, we're just short of someone to pour the wine. I looked at Willow Smoke beside me, not understanding his meaning. Willow Smoke impatiently called out to White Ice standing at the door. What are you doing standing there without a clue? Come pour the wine already. Then he leaned into my ear smugly saying, she's been asking my father for a favor lately. Does she dare disobey me? So Willow Smoke wanted to humiliate White Ice. Was it to help me vent my anger? I reluctantly understood it that way. Well, I was lost and thought White Ice had picked up the wine bottle, kneeling halfway before me, pouring my glass full of wine, able to bend and stretch. That's the phrase that came to mind. The shifting colorful lights illuminated her cold, broken expression, her eyes devoid of emotion, as if she desired nothing, still acting so proud despite everything. I deliberately spilled my glass of wine, the liquid perfectly landing on her clean white shirt, her brows slightly furrowed, showing her displeasure at that moment. Sorry about that. Pour another glass. Her chest heaved, her lips tightly pressed. Every subtle change showed her restraint. I picked up the refilled glass, taking a sip of the strong liquor. A slight burn. I grabbed the collar of her white shirt, pulling her closer with force. So close! I could feel her warm breath on my face. My face suddenly moved forward. Instinctively, she turned her head aside. This action enraged me. I grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at me, and kissed her forcefully. White Ice struggled fiercely, then stood up, throwing the wine bottle in her hand to the ground. The glass shards scattered everywhere, cutting into her bare calf. I've already paid you back. Humiliating me like this is too much. Too much. I looked at Willow Smoke. Willow Smoke immediately shook his head, saying, what's too much? If it weren't for your help back then, she'd be begging under some bridge by now. I turned back to White Ice. Did you hear that? You don't just owe me money. You owe me a debt of gratitude. White Ice said nothing. Dragging her bleeding leg, she turned to leave. Willow Smoke's bodyguards blocked the door, clearly not letting her go so easily. There was a commotion outside. First Scholar Chin pushed the door open and entered, arriving right on time. He stood in front of White Ice, like a knight protecting a princess. If you dare touch a single hair on White Ice's head, I won't let you off. Looking at the self-righteous man before me, ignorant of everything in his heart, I laughed even harder. Stepping forward to stand before him, I lightly patted his face twice. The third time, White Ice grabbed my wrist. Square away, don't go too far. White Ice's voice carried a warning, her eyes blazing with murderous intent. I looked at Willow Smoke, innocently asking to far. Willow Smoke shook his head, not to far. Who told him to steal your woman? So I'm the victim here. One is my fiancée who hasn't called off our engagement. The other is the fiancé she claims to have. How complicated this relationship is. White Ice, don't forget our engagement. It hasn't been cancelled. You publicly claim this man is your fiancé. Don't you think you're the one going too far? White Ice's eyes darkened. Our engagement lost its validity 5 years ago. She looked up at me. Don't you know the day the White family went bankrupt, your father was involved? I didn't believe it, so I helped you. Why would my father not interfere? She lowered her head and gave a soft laugh. It's just a game of cat and mouse. You people from the Square family are all the same. You're no different. Trying to find a way. I realized White Ice was right. In the end, they still acted. I sat on the sofa coldly observing, watching First Scholar Chin get beaten to the ground by the bodyguards, watching blood drip from his mouth, watching a gash open on his forehead. White Ice shielded beneath him, could only scream, stop hitting him. First Scholar Chin was carried out. Willow Smoke, out of kindness, had someone take them to the hospital. As they left, White Ice looked at me with resentment. Our eyes met. I remained indifferent, but my heart stirred. Her broken gaze, her disheveled hair made my heart tremble. I wanted to be the one by her side protecting her. So many years have passed. Her vulnerability, deliberately hidden, showed everyone her strength and defiance. I wanted to find the girl who once made my heart race. I didn't believe she had truly disappeared. Because of the youthful passion, my heart was always unwilling to let go. But that unwillingness after a few days turned into genuine anger. In an interview, White Ice declared, "The engagement between me and Square Way was cancelled 5 years ago. Reporters waited at my doorstep, wanting to hear my opinion. My opinion was that White Ice took my 100 million to rebuild her career, started everything and ended everything." Half an hour later, White Ice the ungrateful betrayer. First Scholar Chin the homewrecker filled the headlines. First Scholar Chin posted a video of White Ice, injured online, saying I had violent tendencies, saying I was emotionally unstable, even saying I was mentally ill, and somehow got hold of a medical record, proving I had seen a psychiatrist. The war between me and White Ice had just begun. I wore a designer suit, attended the company's new product launch with a smile, facing reporters' questions. I absolutely refused to mention or respond about my personal life. Please focus on our company's new product. I'm not very familiar with Miss White Ice. If never heard of Mr. First Scholar Chin. People's expressions shifted from curiosity to confusion, suspecting I had schizophrenia, making such a fuss before, now claiming we're not close. The more I acted this way, the more attention the media gave. A new product needs buzz to sell well. Now it was perfect. Not only did I save on advertising costs, I turned myself into a brand. In the private hospital room, White Ice's calf was wrapped in bandages, lying in bed watching the news. I sat beside her quietly peeling an apple, peeling it in one continuous strip without breaking. Quite a sense of accomplishment. I pushed the plate of apples toward White Ice. "Eat the apple." White Ice smiled at me, her gentle gaze saying, "You eat it." I pulled my hand back, took a big bite, then offered it to White Ice, crisp and sweet. "Eat it." White Ice smiled helplessly. At that moment, noises came from outside. First Scholar Kin's voice. "Let me in. I want to see how White Ice is doing." The low voice of the bodyguard. President Square ordered no one is allowed in. First Scholar Chin wouldn't give up. "I'm White Ice's fiancé. I'm here to visit my fiancée. Square Way. What right do you have to stop me?" Hearing the commotion, White Ice put the apple down. I looked toward the door. "Ice, the guy you found is really getting into character." White Ice looked indifferent, ill-handling. The more White Ice and I made a scene, the more those people believed. She was truly isolated in Fortune City with no one to help. The downfall of the White family involved many people. White Ice entering the tiger's den alone had given her all. She wanted to find those who harmed her family back then. She had to place herself in the trap the hunters set, waiting for them to reveal themselves before striking. I am from the Square family, and her fiancé, also the one who helped her rebuild her career, only by becoming her enemy. Could I offer her the greatest protection? The day White Ice was discharged, reporters swarmed the hospital entrance. "Miss White, was the injury on your leg caused by Mr. Square?" First Scholar Chin standing beside her full of indignation. It was him who had someone do it. "This man is truly a tyrant." White Ice showed a resigned expression, silently confirming First Scholar Kin's words. In the distance, a black Cayenne. I was sitting in the car watching the scene. My phone suddenly rang. Looking down, it was my father calling. He wanted me to attend an internal meeting of a few major families, scheduled for tonight. Usually, I wouldn't have the chance to attend such events. Today, they let me go, mainly because White Ice and I had made a big fuss. The topic tonight was how to deal with White Ice to make her leave Fortune City. The Square, Willow, and Thunder families, the three major clans, were all present. Among the younger generation, only I and Willow Smoke were there. It seems the White family's matter was indeed complicated. Throughout the meeting, I just played with my phone, not saying a word. After it ended, my father suddenly asked Square Way, "Do you have any opinions?" Earlier, he said he wanted me to use the engagement to pressure White Ice, ideally to marry her, to bind our interests. He didn't trust the sincere cooperation of the Willow and Thunder families. Didn't believe White Ice would spare the Square family for old time's sake. He only believed in immediate benefits. I wasn't strong enough to defy his orders. I could only agree for now. then turned around and texted White Ice, telling her that if forced, she should agree for now. My father invited White Ice to the old square family house to reminisce. Even if it was a trap, she had to come. You don't enter the tiger's den, how can you catch the cub? I sat to the side, listening to my father threaten White Ice to marry me. As the person involved, I had no right to speak. White Ice was resolute. I want Mary square away, knowing it was just an act. Hearing those words still made my heart ache for no reason. It felt like those words came from the depths of her heart. The woman before me, cold and noble, proud, not even intimidated in front of my father. Perhaps White Ice and I really wouldn't marry. My father glanced over. 8 bodyguards surrounded her from behind. All were elite members of the family. It seemed he couldn't use soft tactics, so he resorted to force. I couldn't help but tense up. My fists clenched. White Ice was restrained by the bodyguards. My father looked at her with a sharp, cold gaze, his entire presence exuding unyielding authority. Lock her up. Report back to me when she changes her mind. Upon the order, the bodyguards pushed White Ice to the secret chamber on the 2nd floor. Watching them go upstairs, the heavy iron door slammed shut, pulling my memories back to childhood. My mother was beaten to death behind that door. I too had been locked in there for days and nights. My mother just for saying a few extra words to the driver, and I for disobeying my father's orders. My father's control was beyond normal. For so many years I've been trying to escape him. As White Ice said, back then when I gave her 100 million, my father didn't truly stop me. It was to satisfy his perverse desires. He enjoyed toying with people, watching someone struggle in the mud. The more they struggled, the happier he was. That night I held the key I had secretly made and let White Ice out. When I saw White Ice curled up in the corner, my heart ached so much I could barely breathe. Don't be sad. White Ice gently lifted my face, comforting me. I choked out an apology. After all these years, I still couldn't defeat him. I could only watch him harm you. I'm sorry. She hugged me, patting my back gently. You've done enough for me. I shook my head saying it wasn't enough. Under the cover of night, I led White Ice out through the back door. At the last moment, my father's men discovered us. My father was so furious he fired a shot from the 2nd floor. After the gunshot, I slowly collapsed behind White Ice. Go quick, I tried to shout. White Ice turned back to look. Her steps hesitated, wanting to come back. He's my father. He won't do anything to me. White Ice believed those words. She stepped into the car waiting at the door. That car wasn't arranged by me. In a flash, I saw clearly that the driver was First Scholar Chin. I lowered my head, smiling bitterly. I had been fooling myself. Even if I hadn't saved her, someone else would have. She had planned everything, arranged everything, but didn't tell me. First Scholar Chin wasn't someone she hired to act. He was her ally. Always had been. My father grabbed my throat with one hand, his strength enough to choke me to death. Our eyes met. The raging fire in his eyes made my heart tremble. Lock him up, my father ordered. I was thrown into the secret chamber. He held the whip from my memories, approaching me step by step. I accepted my fate, watching everything unfold. My father swung the whip, each lash enough to tear my flesh. Afterward, my father grew tired. Blood dripped endlessly from the whip. I lay gasping on the ground. The bullet wound in my leg swelled. The pain in my body suddenly vanished. Time seemed to return to that spring. The breeze gentle, not harsh. The warm sunlight slowly passing. A pure, beautiful girl standing under the shade of a tree. A blonde-haired boy holding a love letter with a heart drawn on it. Classmate White Ice. I like you, be my girlfriend. The girl named White Ice threw the blonde boy's love letter into the trash. I stood nearby as a spectator, my hair tousled by the wind. The blonde boy, humiliated, angrily ran over to argue with me, even wanting to punch me. I dodged. The blonde boy missed and fell flat on his face. I laughed even harder. That blonde boy, named Cloud Life, later became my sworn enemy. Most of the rumors against me outside were thanks to him. For White Ice, I was a startling first glance, but but to her I was probably just a lunatic. White Ice didn't say much. As the sole heir of the White family, she was raised strictly from a young age. Learning how to be a qualified heir was a lesson she had to study her whole life. I was different. Under my father's tyrannical rule, I became rebellious. She had talent and ambition. I once thought I wouldn't be a turning point in her life. Maybe just the villainous side character in her story, or a dispensable minor role. But I wasn't willing. Always felt I could be the protagonist. My father didn't give up on me. He sent me to the hospital, gave me the best treatment. Half a month later, I heard on the TV in the hospital room news of my upcoming engagement. The partner was Willow Smoke. The engagement party was in 3 days. I had a feeling he wanted to force White Ice to show up. These days, the Thunder and Willow families suffered continuous losses, heavy damages. White Ice's tactics made this middle-aged man unable to sit still. The hospital room door was pushed open. My father and bodyguards walked in. He stood by my bed, looking down at me with disdain. "When did you and White Ice start working together?" "We're not working together." I lowered my head, denying it. My father coldly said, "If you want to live, obey quietly. The engagement party in 3 days. Find a way to make White Ice attend. If not," he said vaguely. But I heard the sound of a whip striking flesh. "Yes," I said, trembling. My phone was back in my hands. I touched a string of numbers on it, flipping through it several times. Finally, my fingers moved quickly. A message was sent. Looking at the white ceiling, a flash of white light sparked in my mind. I started to feel at peace again. Born into a family like this, with a father like this, I'd save whoever I could. What more could I hope for in return? Perhaps I was born to pay the debts of the Square family. 3 days passed quickly. The scars on my body all disappeared. My body recovered as before. At the engagement party, where prominent figures gathered, everyone was solemn. Outside, a tight net had been laid. My father was secretly watching me. It wasn't that I didn't notice. I just didn't care. As the young master of the Square family, I kept a proper smile on my face, moving among the guests toasting. My father's calm expression turned to a worried frown. The person he was waiting for didn't show up. Seeing me still calm and composed, my father seemed to realize something. He called me to the VIP lounge. "Where is she? Why hasn't she come?" he asked impatiently. I looked straight at him, smiling lightly. "She probably won't come." That day, I had threatened White Ice in the message. If she dared to come, I jumped straight off the building. My father glanced at the bodyguard beside him. The bodyguard understood, handing him a belt. I laughed even more arrogantly, using words to provoke him. "You'd better beat me to death like you did my mother." His body froze. He hissed through his teeth, "Your mother deserved to die." The belt was raised high, just as it was about to strike. The piercing sound of police sirens rang out. Then White Ice burst through the door. Armed police rushed in with guns. My father and the bodyguards were restrained. I looked at everything before me in shock. White Ice didn't tell me. Was it because she didn't trust me? Or had she never trusted me? "Square Way, are you okay?" The woman before me, her voice full of concern, her eyes filled with care, her gentle movements as she hugged me. I buried my head in her neck, not wanting to talk, not wanting to respond, as if abandoned by the whole world. The repeated lack of trust made my faith in her waver. "Am I just a pawn in your plan?" My voice rasped. White Ice froze for a moment. Lifting my face, she pressed her forehead to mine. "When you've rested well, it'll explain everything to you." I closed my eyes, smelling a woody fragrance. Before, she always carried the scent of flowers. Perhaps no explanation was needed anymore. The crimes of the Square, Willow, and Thunder families were exposed to the public. Evidence piled up like a mountain, just like the White family back then. In one night, everything vanished. White Ice's methods were merciless. I hid at home for a few days. White Ice waited outside my door for days. The household staff had all been dismissed. The food in the fridge was almost gone. I took a shower, changed into new clothes. Meeting an old lover, you always have to look presentable. On the floor-to-ceiling window, a slender silhouette was reflected. I sat across from her, No longer the usual arrogance. I couldn't help but sigh congratulations on achieving your wish. I heard you're getting engaged. But now I have nothing left. I pushed the watch I had taken before to her. Consider it my wedding gift. I want to attend the wedding. White Eye stood up excitedly, her eyes slightly red square way. Listen to my explanation. I owe First Scholar Chin so much. He's been by my side all these years. I lowered my head smiling bitterly. Indeed, you two suffered together. While I was living a lavish life as the young master of the Square family, she didn't know. During that time, I was so consumed by guilt. I couldn't sleep at night, thinking about how my father destroyed her family. I felt like an accomplice. The endless guilt tormented me, driving me to madness. The psychiatric record First Scholar Chin leaked was real. The day my mother died, I went to find White Ice. She was celebrating with her staff for her first company's listing. First Scholar Chin stood beside her, like a match made in heaven. Back home, I went mad, smashing everything in the house. Even so, I never thought of making things difficult for her. White Ice's brows furrowed slightly. Each word she spoke was serious. I'll make it up to you. Anything you want. Except marriage. I coldly interrupted her. She had said that phrase again. I stood up, took the most expensive bottle of wine from the cabinet, opened it and poured two glasses. It's been 10 years. Let's end it tonight. From now on, no one owes anyone. White Ice picked up the glass and drank it down, then grabbed the bottle from my hand, drinking two more glasses. I laughed. This wine is expensive. Drinking like that is such a waste. A spark flashed in her eyes. Calmly, she raised her glass and drank it down. She said, "Square way, in this life I owe you. In the next life I'll definitely repay you." I was speechless. How was she so sure I'd still love her in the next life? She forced a bitter smile, awkwardly saying she had been too greedy. I looked up, saying, "Good men like me are rare. You missed your chance." One bottle of wine was soon empty. Then the second bottle. The third bottle. We moved from the floor-to-ceiling window to the sofa, then to the bedroom. The result of the drunken night, besides a headache, was an emptiness. Clothes scattered across the floor, the bedsheets in disarray, the wine bottle rolling around. Was it uncontrollable passion or drunken chaos? I looked at White Ice, still sleeping soundly, unable to find an answer. I threw on some clothes and quietly left the house, not bothering to fix my messy hair or my tired face. I took a taxi straight to the airport, a plane ticket to each country. Sitting on the plane watching the white clouds drift by, I finally felt a bit safe. I had fled, becoming a deserter in love. 5 years had molded me into someone more restrained, more patient and calm than before. The woman looking at me with melancholic eyes made my mind buzz. My heart pounded wildly. The composure I prided myself on vanished the moment we met again. "Hey buddy, do you two know each other?" At the cafe entrance, my friend Pitch tugged at my sleeve, following my gaze. White Ice's dark eyes were cold, showing no emotion, but I could sense a hint of anger. I didn't understand why she had to be angry. I turned back, saying, "We don't know each other." When I turned around, White Ice was standing in front of me. "Let's talk." Her voice cold without a trace of warmth. She grabbed my hand, wanting to pull me away. Pitch tried to stop her, but I stopped him with a look. We stood facing each other under a sycamore tree. White Ice's voice was slightly choked. "How have you been these years?" "Very well," I replied calmly. "I missed you so much." My fingertips trembled. I licked my lips. My lips slightly dry. "Thank you for still thinking of me." But I smiled lightly. "I'm getting married soon." I held up my hand with the ring to prove my words were true. White Ice froze. Her lips moved. Finally, she only said, "I wish you happiness." I gave a slight smirk, my tone cheerful. "My fiancee is waiting. I'll go now." Saying that, I turned to leave. My arm was grabbed tightly, then pulled with force. I fell into a warm embrace. White Ice's slender fingers slid from behind my ear into my hair. A pair of cold lips kissed me. I pushed her away, coldly saying, "Don't bother me anymore." She was engaged to First Scholar Chin. Even when I wasn't in the country, I still heard the news. White Ice's voice was full of pain and bitterness. I'm sorry I missed you too much. Missed you every moment. I showed a helpless expression you're engaged. You should be responsible for your marriage. Thinking about another man like this, you'll end up wrong everyone. White Ice's eyes were red, hugging my waist tightly square way. I canceled my engagement with First Scholar Chin. Can we get back together? My whole body trembled. A voice in my head told me to agree. But one reason said I'm sorry. I love my fiancée very much. What about me? She was a bit agitated, her eyes staring into mine. I looked down at my shoes, momentarily unsure what to say. Square way, I really love you. Let's make up. A tear fell from White Ice's eye. If you really love me, don't disrupt my life anymore. Please. The last two words were so small, so humble. At first, I only wanted her to succeed. Now she was not only successful, but standing at the brightest peak. I felt comforted by her achievements today. It proved I had bet on the right person, didn't it? I broke free from her embrace once more, turned and left, with the leaves swaying in the wind, highlighting the emptiness of autumn. 5 years and another 5 years. What's missed is missed. 3 years ago, my father took his own life in prison. At that moment, I knew there was no going back. And how could White Ice forget the tragic scene of her parents' death in a car accident? For the rest of our lives, living peacefully apart is the perfect ending.